I've been to JP Morgan many years, and on a high level, this was the first year I actually felt very encouraged. I feel like the last whole group of years was focused on, I'm going to focus on my core business. I'm going to divest everything else that's not related to it. I'm going to build, value based on what we know, what we've done, et cetera. And that actually has bode well for a lot of those companies. They have enhanced their balance sheets and stabilized their businesses, which were, was a great amount of instability given what transpired certainly through COVID and the uncertainty of that aftermath. So I think that we are seeing now companies that have really stabilized their businesses and are looking at growth, which is incredibly encouraging. You saw a lot of talk about pharma, right? I mean, you always do. But what I did notice, I was in a room with a panel that had FDA and CMS and Tempus and a couple, groups, and it was on diagnostics. And usually those rooms would have been, like maybe a third full. It was overflowing. So I was excited because, of course, given that we invest in AI and data-enabled diagnostics, for me, that was a first, seeing that level of enthusiasm in that small room. And really talking through what some of the challenges have been and pushing on what some of the opportunities could be with an adjustment in regulation, which was a lot of the discussion. So I was encouraged by that, and I was encouraged by the fact that there's a lot more conversation around digital health in general. There's a lot more sort of understanding about how important it is for patients to have their data. But alongside that comes with knowledge, right? Comes increasing demands by consumers to be informed and because they are informed, right? Now they know what's going on. It's like in the past, you went to a doctor or a lawyer and you did not really know, anything about what was behind in the magic box, right? The individual would tell you and you believed everything. Well, now with technology and internet and generative AI and so forth, as well as the ability to have access to your personalized data, consumers are so much more empowered, and they know what to ask, and that has forced the providers to be more informed. And that's where I think a lot of these technologies now, before there was a hesitancy, I don't want to do anything with a black box, it's AI, I don't know how they're thinking about it. Now it's like, wow, if you can show me that it's doing a better job, I'll adopt it. So I'm seeing more adoption of that as a result of the requirements that patients are leveling on their providers and liability, right? I mean, when I started this fund years ago, I used to say doctors used to not have enough information. Now they have too much, right? And they don't know what to do with it. Well, the reality is that also creates legal consequences. So it's really important to make sure that they do embrace that, and they have been embracing it. And I see that as a big shift. And I see a lot of shifts in outcomes-based platforms and end-to-end platforms for different disease types. And, you do have the challenge that of some of the digital health companies that lost a lot of value of their stock. And so that has been something that, people have had to address. But by and large, I'm seeing a lot of enthusiasm for diagnostics. I'm seeing a lot of large companies have now a dedicated section, dedicated unit for diagnostics, and those diagnostic units are projected to do well. So the digital health piece, I think, is growing now, finally, after hitting a bunch of years of a lot of challenge. But the ones that will survive will be the ones that really are able to turn some of those, like the Teladocs and so forth, into profitable enterprises. They have to look for long-term, revenue, consistent revenue, and really create the business models that work to sustain their presence long-term. So, as I said, with in general, we saw a lot about pharma. We saw a lot about Chinese innovation being brought here. We saw a lot of the digital health challenges with Amwell and Teladoc, but yet the opportunities for those end-to-end solutions being driven by the consumer health empowerment world. And we saw some, just recent acquisitions. A lot of them were big pharma acquisitions, but we have seen recently some exciting diagnostic acquisitions just this year. So I'm very optimistic about this year, to be honest, for the first time, I think, in many years, since I think before JP Morgan went online. And I'm happy to answer questions about that. What about digital health decision support software, social connection? Yeah, so that has become important because hospitals are actually embracing some of those softwares because, so it's the patients come in and then they leave and then there's no connection, right, to their care, and the monitoring piece is really important. So I think that people are a lot more now aware, obviously, of mental health, and so the platforms that are serving to connect with patients, continue to provide insights, information, value, connectivity to the healthcare system, without the healthcare systems who are overloaded having to do it themselves, I think are seeing some very positive, support. I am seeing, as I've said, a lot more investment in the space. The startup health startup competitions were extremely well attended, and the companies that I'm speaking to were saying that they are having multiple great meetings and with investors, and a lot more investment funds are coming into these small companies. Still, I just did a panel a couple days ago in Germany on this. We're still seeing a lot of the angel groups and angel investors and family offices pick up a lot of the slack because venture has been very timid about coming back into the market, and that's been the case now for a while. And so we've had these companies that have had this valley of death, which has been horrible, that they've had to rely on their existing investors to get them through. I continue to have conversations for companies having those challenges, but it has made the companies stronger and leaner and focus more on revenue. And people are really still focused now in terms of investment on how soon are you going to have revenue, or do you have revenue, or how fast is that going to scale? So that continues to be a focus of investors right now. And the large investors are still being very careful. I think you're seeing some large investment going in like late stage with, large dollars, but the early stage startup world is still struggling a bit. But I do see that being filled by a lot of really great investors and some early stage and a lot of new funds that have come out that are making their name. So
that's fantastic. Yeah, thank you, Michele. I don't see any other questions right now, but I do certainly would love to. I know a lot of our community is digital health startups, so maybe you can tell them a little bit about your thesis and what companies you're looking to invest in, and what kind of stage you're looking for. So maybe because you guys have done
sure.
a lot, whether it's now diagnostics or Oxcan or Biosha, you've done a lot of different things, but you do have a very focused thesis, and you do seem to like seed and A stage. But maybe you could clarify that for the community here.
Absolutely. So we invest in earlier, less invasive, more accurate diagnostics enabled by technology. So we like the, point of care. We like the not a lot of hardware, ideally, and we like quantitative and qualitative, if we can, testing. So if you're finding out not just what's wrong with you, but what to do about it, or not just that there's cancer, but what's the organ of origin, and all sorts of innovative ways to really help people and help doctors both make better decisions. We have done both direct to consumer and direct to physician. We think that, and that was asked recently about the divide between that. I think that the direct to consumer are fine when it's syphilis or strep throat, UTIs, things like that. But the direct to doctors really is what, and physicians, was what we need to do when it comes to cancers and things that need more informed explanation, calm minds, patient handling for really critical, life-threatening decisions. But I do see the advent or the development of a lot more infectious disease, focused solutions, and we have had a rise, right, in pandemics when it comes right now to syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, all those. So there are a lot more innovative ways to identify those things, and I've seen a lot of companies in that space. As well as the cancer, Alzheimer's, mental health, all of those really critical areas. A lot of areas primarily affecting women too, which are important to us as well at the fund, because we feel like not enough solutions have been developed along those lines. Right? Not until 2017 they actually use, gender diverse mice. So we feel like that's an important area that needs to be addressed in diagnostics. Essentially, women don't same way. We don't have the same symptoms the same way. For instance, cardiac, which is one of the number one killers. So looking for solutions in those areas, in inflammation, that's an area we look at a lot, and interested in solutions in those areas, inflammatory biomarkers, and certainly the hard to identify early stage cancers. We have those one tests that are fine, but most of them don't have the data for the earliest stage 0, stage 1, stage 2. And so we're really interested in finding those kinds of solutions.
That's wonderful. Michele, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate your insights, your perspectives. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, Stan. Thank you for doing this and bringing all this to these wonderful companies.